Welcome to the Clean Power Hour Live. I'm Tim Montague, your host, bringing you the latest and greatest clean energy news every other week with none other than John Weaver, the commercial solar guy. Welcome, John.
Hey Tim, I heard that El Nino is hitting Illinois, and you and your travels are seeing short uh, corn. And I have also seen other documents for solar weather across the US. And it's interesting to see how it's starting to affect solar output. So it's interesting that you're seeing it in the corn, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm sure the community solar developers are bumming. We've had a very cloudy, cool, and wet summer in Illinois, and I'm not a meteorologist. I really am just shooting from the hip from what I read about the super El Nino that's happening, but it does tend to cause cooler, wetter weather here in the Midwest, and that is indeed what we're having. I would guess, John, and I'm not a farmer either. I have some friends I can verify this with. I would guess the corn is 2 feet shorter than normal. It'll be fine in the long run. I'd rather have a little too much rain than not enough. It's no fun when we're in drought. We were in drought last year. So I can't complain. It's also pretty mild temps, which is great for pickleball. Although the
Well,
rain is
if
not good for the pickleball.
If we wanna, we can look at a topic on there's an article I have on some weather across the world and how solar is affected in it.
Oh, well,
But good
let's
seeing
let's
you
go.
anyways,
Let's
Tim.
go, bro. I love that. Let's do
All
it.
right. It's the second article that's on our document, but
Okay.
it's good seeing you anyway, Tim. Nice. Hope everything's going all right there.
Life is really good. Life is really good. And we're getting ready to be on vacation for a little while for the 4th of July, taking a long weekend to Pennsylvania to visit my
Cool.
brother and sister and father. So that's always a blast. We get to hang out, we get to splash in the Delaware River at the clean end of the river, at the very source of the Delaware River, known as the Water Gap. All right. Developing El Nino set to reshape global solar resource. If only I could put this on screen, I will do that. But what are you seeing in that story there, John?
So globally, there is some change, but more particularly, they have a map of the U.S. If you scroll down a tiny bit, and you can see in the Midwest, not the upper Midwest, that it's tilting toward green, which is less solar irradiance.
Yeah.
The South Central Texas, along the border, it's tilting toward red. But then along the northeast, along the east coast, down into Florida, a strip across the Midwest, the upper Midwest into the plains, down into the Southwest, it seems average-ish. There's a bolt of green, light green that's across. So, on average, it looks like across the whole of the US, it's average. But you can definitely see regional variation
Yeah.
versus prior periods. And across the world, you can see a lot of variation. In fact, this article was really interesting. One thing it pointed out, it's that a region in India, Rajasthan, some of the largest solar plants in the world are there, and they're expecting 15% greater
Hmm.
solar output. And that's like, I wonder how that might even affect inverters if you got so much extra juice getting pushed. They probably can manage it, but it's interesting.
So the red is above average
Yes.
irradiance,
Yes.
and the yellow is average.
Average, and then
Yeah.
green
And the
is
green is
below.
below average.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting little map of the US, across the world you can see plus or minus. This varies every year. Um, and also, maybe this is a good moment to just say out loud to contractors and O&M people things they already know, but have it repeated. It's that production goes up and down every year. And if a customer gets on your case and says, "Hey, you told me my system was going to produce X," you should respond and say, "No, the system's going to produce plus or minus X." And you, as a customer, should be cool. And I know it's hard to be cool as a customer when your system isn't generating the money you think it should. But I have a great example recently at a project in Bristol. which has been producing great for 3 years, in fact, 10% above for 3 years. It had 2 years in a row that were down. And customers started elbowing me, and I'm like, well, this is the way weather works, and here's other systems in the region, and they didn't want to accept it. And then there was also Canadian wildfires that were affecting it, and this is the summer after that. And they're like, well, maybe it's dirty. And I was like, all right, well, we can get you a cleaning. And so we went through the process. We made sure to collect data before. We have module level data because it's a solar edge install. We did a cleaning, and there wasn't an ounce of difference, which was interesting. After 4 years, we cleaned solar panels. After 5 years, and it looked almost the same. We could see some visual on the edges of the modules, but we're near the ocean. We're in the Northeast. We're in a region that has heavy rain and heavy snow. And every year the modules get professionally cleaned by the snow gods. And so it was just very interesting to see. And this year the system's come back. It's got some good, strong production again. So it was a good example for me to see a system we installed performing well, to see it go up and go down with the weather, to see a cleaning not have an effect, which, by
Hmm.
default, I'm like, yeah, clean it. But I've also been taught, in certain regions, you don't need to clean unless you got heavy pollen or this or that. And I just saw an example. And so here's a good example with El Nino. Keep it in your head, folks. This year, your production may be different. Weather patterns are evolving. You happen to be in an industry that's dependent on the sun, clouds, rain, and all that stuff. So,
Yeah, the other thing is, I don't think developers think too much about like 20 years in the future. Well, and we really, when we're developing projects, we have to think 20 years into the future because the projects are meant to be out there for 20 years. And like wind load, the weather is getting gnarlier, it's getting different. So it's not easy to predict the future, but you got to be on the safe side. So all right,
yeah,
cool. Well, let's move on. I wrote a little story here in PV Magazine,
look at that.
and I got to get this on stage. How Illinois is leading the country in the equitable energy transition. I was lucky enough to take Amtrak to Chicago on Wednesday, and I went to an event at Nexamp's Chicago headquarters.
Cool.
Nexamp is the largest community solar developer in the United States. They're based in your fair city of Boston,
Yes.
Massachusetts.
Yep.
And you can look forward to an interview with Zad Ashai, their CEO. I interviewed him just last week for the pod, so that's to be dropped. But this was a very cool gathering of a bunch of very influential people in the solar market here in Illinois. And I'm just going to give you a taste of who all that was. We had Zad Ashai, of course, the CEO of Nexamp. We had Kavi Chintam, Vote Solar's Illinois campaign manager. We had Jess Collingsworth, Nexamp Central Policy Director. Marcus Evans, he's the Illinois State Representative, Assistant Majority Leader, and current President of the National Conference of State Legislatures. Brian Granahan, our Director of the IPA, the Illinois Power Agency, which is our PUC. Marion Jones, Vice President of Community Engagement and Workforce Development for Nexamp, which is cool that Nexamp has that role. And we were celebrating diversity, equity, and workforce development in the clean energy transition. There was a big panel discussion that Jess led, Jess Collingsworth, and shout out to Jess. Thank you for hooking me up with Zad Ashai. It was long overdue for me to connect with Zad for an interview. I have a long history with Nexamp. I originated 2 community solar projects for them in, I think it's Grundy County, I'm not even sure, but somewhere in the west suburbs of Chicago back in the day. This is back in 2019. And they were just very assertive about the Illinois community solar market, and see so much runway that they propped up this second headquarters. But one of the coolest things about the evening was that they had a group of fellows there, from two groups. They had the City Colleges of Chicago that has a partnership with Nexamp. Their chancellor Juan Salgado was there, and there was a organization called CELI, the Clean Energy Leadership Institute, was there, and that is a nonprofit that, excuse me, mentors young professionals in clean energy, and they have programs in all the major metros, and that's a growing footprint. And they call their alumni Sea Lions, which was really fun. Um, and uh, the other cool thing about the event was Audrey Steinbach was there. She's the energy storage director for the IPA, and we were talking a lot about CRGA, the Clean Reliability Grid Affordability Act, the new energy legislation we have, which is unlocking VPP, which I highlight in this story. So in I think next month in July, the VPP is going to get rolled out. And then in August, the state of Illinois is going to run their first utility scale procurement of energy storage. So ultimately, Illinois is in the process of procuring 3 gigawatts of energy storage. Brian Granahan pointed out that in the last decade, John, Illinois has gone from 80 megawatts of solar in 2016 to 6,000 megawatts of solar that is now energized in the state. And together, we're looking at around 13 gigawatts of wind and solar that is in the pipeline here in Illinois. So this legislation is a nice, I guess, counterbalance and juxtaposition to markets like Texas, which I have nothing against. The Texas way, though, is to install a bunch of utility solar. That's how they've, achieved a 50% solar and wind grid. It's 90% utility scale. Here in Illinois, it's more 50-50. We have a lot of DG, including community solar and rooftop solar, and then we also have utility solar and storage. So I would encourage developers who are working in places like Illinois to lean into workforce, and they have to. I think 14% is the statistic. They have to have 14% of their projects being built by, equity eligible contractors and individuals and low income communities, et cetera, et cetera. Any questions?
The biggest, coolest thing about, and you did talk a lot about Nexamp, but I think people should hear a lot about Nexamp because, or try to learn more. They're just a go at it company, very aggressive. They've worked real hard in many years to get ahead. They have a lot of techniques for growing. They used to knock on doors way back when. I think that's how they got their start in Massachusetts, trying to get people to sign up. They had a bunch of young folks going out there just with good energy, and they grew into New York. They grew into other community solar states in the Northeast, and then they just, like a few others, made a move to Illinois when they decided. And it's funny. I joke whenever I see a Nexamp press release. I always say Nexamp doesn't say much. They just put out press releases when they get 500 million bucks in finance, and that's saying a lot. When you get massive finance and you put out a press release. But that's all I really see them say in the press. Maybe they talk here at events so that they can collect other smart people to hang out with them, but they're not out there doing too many interviews. So you getting them, learning about them, talking about them, they're a company to watch. They're like they should be more known. They're an industry famous company, but they should be like an energy famous company because they got gigawatts of capacity and they're growing. And I think they'll become more, especially with batteries. They probably have a massive amount of in-house talent of just intelligence. Those names you were running across as you first started saying their name in my head, I was like, I don't know them, but the job titles you were talking about, I was just saying to myself, wow, I mean, that must just be like decades and tens of gigawatts of installation experience. All the little nuances that the people at Nexamp have learned must just be massive just to be able to dig through all the stuff. So
Yeah, and just
cool
last
company.
week, it's also noteworthy. I'll put this on screen. They made an announcement and did a ribbon cutting in Montague, Illinois, and Woodford County of a community solar project that's a collaboration with Turning Point Energy. And this project was built on old coal mines
That's cool.
in Western Illinois. So it's central West Illinois. I've walked that ground. It's just old beat up ground. It was heavily mined. The easy the easy getting coal is gone. And but it's a great story. It's part of this transition. And I have a related announcement, John, and that is that I am now producing a short documentary film about the
Cool.
energy transition in Illinois called A Just Transition. And I kicked it off with 7 interviews at Intersolar last week when I was in Chicago with some OGs in the industry like Kevin Borgia and Jonathan Roberts from Soltage. Kevin is from SunVest. And so I'm going to tell the story, though, how a coal state and a nuclear state has become a solar, wind, and battery state, all the while looking out for jobs and justice. And it's a good story. And I have a long road to hoe here. This is a big project. It'll take me 6 to 9 months, something like that. Probably 9 months. So if we're lucky, it'll see the light of day in a year in June of 2027, which would be sweet because that's our 10th anniversary of FEJA taking force in Illinois. That was our first major energy legislation that got signed in 2016 and went into force in June of 2017. So if
Now,
you
one thing
have,
though, one
sorry,
thing I want to throw in there though,
yeah.
you said you're like how it transitioned from being a coal and nuclear state to being a solar and storage state, but it's still a nuclear state. I mean,
Oh
it's
yeah,
still
we
50,
very
60
much are a
percent.
nuclear state. We're
Okay.
not leaving nuclear anywhere right now. We're subsidizing it with our energy legislation that started with FEJA, continued with CEJA, and we have 40% of our grid power is
Yeah.
from nuclear.
All right.
So
I just want to bring that up.
Illinois is like already. I mean, effectively, we're 100% net zero carbon because of the massive amount of nuclear, and we're exporting a lot of those resources. So Illinois produces more energy than it consumes in the
Oh,
state.
well,
And
that's cool. Good job, Illinois.
that was something
I
that
never knew that.
Granahan, NJC Kibbe from the state of Illinois was also there. I forgot to mention him. He is the climate, I'm not sure, climate czar for the state of Illinois, for lack of a better word. But that was just a really cool event. And I would encourage, I've been talking with John Carson at Trajectory Energy, another community solar developer, about doing an event downstate. So we'll see if we can get something going. Similarly, I thought it was just a great way to celebrate our success and highlight the goods that are happening both for the people and the industry. All right, let's move on.
So, something I wanted to show you from last week or last time we were here, we were talking about SunBallast, our new racking system.
Yeah,
And I
I'll get
wanted to
this up.
point out explicitly the attachments because I didn't know exactly the units and how they were doing the mid clamp and different types of attachments. And so I got some good images on this, and within them are a couple of key images that we'll like. So here's just the modules being laid out. You can see the optimizers, the racking piece. There's an image from my Blue Sky account. So this is just a nice blue
So that's
sky.
before the module is attached, obviously, because the ballast is going to be underneath the panel, right? Once it.
No, the module on the left is attached.
Oh,
There will be a new module attached on the right though. So the ones that you can see are fully attached.
I
Um,
see it sloping to the right. Yeah,
correct, because the
gotcha,
left is on the
gotcha.
north, the right's to the south. So let's go to the next image. Somewhere in here. So this, well, here you start to see it. I have a better zoomed in image, but you can see the two mid clamps that are just right between the modules.
Yeah.
And you can see one of the mid clamps that will be attached on the brick at the bottom half of it. So they're just standard mid clamps that hold them down, but they're big and chunky mid clamps. And I do have an image that's nice and close. So this is a different version of a clamp. So this is a clamp connected to a mid support. And you'll see a different image of this, the structure of this mid support clamp, because it's kind of a long arcing arm, which is a little different. But this just grabs on the side in the middle of the module to add a little bit of support and a little bit of lift. And so this is not a standard mid clamp, but it's in the middle, and it is a clamp. It's just a different arm. I don't know the technical name for it, but it's the central arm that offers support and holds it down.
And it looks like those clamps are pretty easy to install. Would you say that's
Yeah,
true?
absolutely. In fact, I was talking to the installation crew, and they said it's heavier to deploy these units because they're big and chunky, but once they figured it out, the installation is fast. In fact, they caught up with the procurement team and outpaced us, and led to a couple of days, 2 days of lost labor because we weren't ready for them. Once they got going,
Mm.
they started blazing through the labor of this. So we're going to do a review because they're going to do two separate systems. Yeah, here's those mid clamps. They're super easy to attach, and you just bolt them down one at a time. But we're going to do a review. Oh, so here are those strange mid clamps. So this is one of the middle support bricks, and this is that little arm. It reaches out above and below the module to clamp down so it can grab. But the whole module goes completely above this, so there's no like center area. But this is a different way of grabbing onto the module in the center of it,
Yeah.
where it calls for it. And that arm kind of swings out. It and once they move it out a little, then they tighten it down.
I
Next
like it.
image.
It's pretty clean, I have to say.
Yeah,
And
this is nice and clean. So this is both sides attached. Wire management is ongoing here.
hmm
So lots of clips, um, lots of S
how do
clips.
you, yeah, just so you're keeping the wires off the roof surface?
Yeah, so we have a bunch of metal S clips underneath that are grabbing
Uh-huh.
onto it.
Okay.
Now this is like the golden row, so they're still touch. So this was yesterday, but now as of today, they're at like 55% modules down.
Wow.
So they're moving along.
And this is like a 1 megawatt project or something like that?
So this specific project is 670-ish kW.
Okay.
Right next to it, these are the Helene modules. Right next to it is its sister project, unique parcel, unique structure, and it is 900. So between themselves, they're 1.7 megawatts of modules, and then just some Helene labels. But I just wanted to point out specifically that clamping thing
I
because
always
we
wonder,
discussed.
this is a really geeky question,
Yeah,
but how do the manufacturers decide if they're going to stack their modules horizontally or vertically on the pallet?
recently somebody told me it's industry standard to go vertical now. Why are you buying old style stacks? You're gonna mess them up.
I don't agree. I don't think that's a
I'm not
standard.
smart enough to answer. I don't know this answer, but
And I honestly, I wish there would be more horizontal. I understand why they do vertical. I think it's like when you stack plates for moving, they say stack them vertically. Um, it's stronger that way. But
it's scary.
what's nice about the horizontal is it's easier for the robot to grab. And as soon as
Yeah.
you unwrap the pallet of the vertical, they can tend to want to, domino over one way or the other. You have to build a jig sometimes to keep the pallet from wobbling too much, right? Because they got cardboard wrapped around them and shrink wrapped, right? But then you have to tear all that off, and then you got this kind of wonky dealing with the vertical. So I like the horizontal stack.
All right.
Yay, Helene.
I so far we get mostly that stacked that way. I haven't actually had a portfolio where they were vertically stacked, though I see them online, and I don't know. One of these
Yeah.
days somebody's gonna yell at me about it. So I thought that SunBallast is pretty neat. They're
Oh,
so far performing.
you found is that a Luminous video?
No, this is called
Oh,
Ozzy. Ozzy's
their
just a
competitor.
well, I don't know, maybe. sort of competitor, but this isn't a robot. This is a human who's doing the work here.
Oh, I
Yeah,
see.
so it's
There's a
not
human
automated.
operator.
Yes,
All right,
yes.
we got
So
to
I
get this.
just,
We got to get this on
yeah,
screen. This is a cool video.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I'm glad you agree.
Too many tabs. Too many tabs, John.
I only got one tab open, Tim. I'm focused on the show, just for our listeners and watchers, Tim. Come on.
All right, check that
Zoom,
out.
zoom.
So they're doing 2 rows simultaneously. That is interesting. I've never seen that where they work on both rows in parallel.
And I'm sure there's so many other little nuances. Notice how the modules are stacked vertically. That was interesting. You know, they said 31 modules, so they did a pallet. They said it took them 10 minutes if you in the notes to deploy a pallet. It's a
Okay.
7-person team. It's just very interesting stuff. I wonder if the vertical stack is better. And I noticed the last module was the other direction. That's to protect the backside. So just so many little things to watch and learn about, and see how these folks learn. I mean, you see how quickly they
I
attach.
think I
They have
saw a
their
cracked
technique.
module in there too.
Oh, did you? Holy crap!
I
Where?
don't know. It
Where?
was right towards the end. There was one that looked like it had a, a golf ball had landed in it.
Oh, let's
Let's
look.
watch it.
Oh,
Well,
it
let's
could be the
watch it.
last one. Oh wait, it just froze. Well, it's messing with us too much. Well, let's see what you get.
There, right there. You see that?
Well, no, that's the junction box. That's the backside. It's flipped.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Bifacial modules.
Yep. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. So it's like the whole stack is facing outward except for the back one. It's kind of like a loaf of bread. You want to make sure the inside of the module isn't exposed. I don't think that's a thing, but maybe it's to protect the wire. I don't know.
Yeah.
Modules don't like fresh air. They get crusty if solar panels are in the air too long. That's not
Mm.
true. I don't think you're listening to me.
Well, dude, they do they do age, okay? The second law of thermodynamics is a real thing. Um, I wouldn't want to install solar modules that have just been sitting in a warehouse for 5 years even, personally. I think that shortens their field life, but I'm not
This
a
next,
procurer of solar modules. I'm somebody who looks over the shoulder and says, "Yeah, I think that's a decent module. You should consider that." You know what I do, John? I take the module data sheet and I take the report card. Right? Who does the report
Kiwi.
card? Kiwi.
Yep.
Is it Kiwi? Kiwi.
Kiwa.
Kiwa. Kiwa.
Kawa. Kila. Kawa.
Yeah, the
Solar
module
panel
reliability
report
scorecard.
card, reliability scorecard. Let's see.
And then I feed the scorecard and the data sheet into Claude or ChatGPT, and I say, analyze this and give me a read. Now the manufacturer has to have participated, obviously. And if the manufacturer isn't participating in these scorecards, that's also a yellow flag, I think. It's not cheap for them to do that. Kiwa. Formerly, what was the old name?
PVAL.
Yeah, PVAL. So anyway, that's just for our listeners. If you're in the procurement business and you're comparing 2 modules, that's a very good, simple test to do. How does the PVAL reliability scorecard measure those 2 manufacturers and modules? And it brings up subtle things that is kind of cool. Like some will have slightly thicker glass, and the chat GPT will say, if you're in a high hail zone, this might be a better choice than B, right? A versus B.
Absolutely.
So, all right.
Next one, autovoltaics. This, in my opinion, is a bad solar plus car integration, Tim.
You're right. It is. It is. So let's see if we can get this.
It's just from the internet, Tim. I don't know the source. It's just, all right.
This is a very bad. Can you tell what kind of car that is?
I have no idea. I like the rims. The rims are nice. But those are bifacial modules, and if you think about it, the solar held up well.
Is this real or is this AI?
Oh no, this is real. This is real. I read the report on Reddit and I asked a couple of questions. So it's a somebody crashed through a fence in their car. Um, they hit a single axis tracker, and their
Yeah.
car caught on fire. And so that speaks of the strength of the solar project. I mean, it did go through two rows and it ripped up one tube, but the majority of the solar just kind of shook it off. And I bet you there's only like two or three strings of modules that are affected here. And so, car
That's
bombs, solar is defensible against car bombs, is maybe the new headline. Only small portion of solar farm taken out by
Do you know where this
vehicular
happened
attack.
geographically?
I gotta go back to that link.
Solar Boy had a funny video on his
Hmm,
channel recently. He had a crane that fell on a rooftop solar project.
oh,
Apparently, it fell while he was in the vicinity, and he documented it somewhat in real time. But check out Solar Boy BOI on YouTube.
I have a story of him that I am working on right now. He built
Oh,
a nice off-grid system whose purpose is to be connected and unconnected. So be reinstalled by people, by tradespeople who are training. So he's helping the
connected
world
and
learn more.
unconnected.
Yeah, sorry, just assembled and deassembled. That's bad. It's not even connected to the grid. It's an off-grid system that's within a school, and I'll get to show you some cool pictures of it pretty soon. But
Oh,
it's just he's helping kids learn solar at a trade school, and that makes me happy.
yeah.
So
Yeah, he's a good
yeah,
guy. All right, price of
so
silver's falling pretty hard.
yeah, I just wanted to show people that because price of silver is a chunky cost of modules, and it peaked at like almost 120 bucks, and now it's down by 50% plus. It's down to like 60 bucks. And so that makes me wonder how module people will. Oh, you have to pay for this stuff, Tim. Maybe I have to share this one because I pay for Bloomberg.
Yeah, if there's more to
Um,
it, you can put this on screen.
yeah, I
I
just wanted to show the graph.
stop sharing so you can share.
Share screen. S1 quote. So it's really just
There we go.
just showing what happened with solar or the price of silver. I mean, we look over 5 years. There was a massive run up starting in 25. It peaked in early 26. We can see here at like $101. It was actually higher than 101. And then now it's fallen off to under 60. And so this peak led to a change in the solar industry where they're pushing away from using as much silver.
Yeah.
They want to get tighter with it, but now it's fallen off. And so it's like, all right, how do you react? You know, the this is a weird little industry that we're in. We have some commodity exposure. Um, how do module manufacturers react? Is silver going to stay? I don't know. What's silver going to do? Is it going to go back down to 20 and 30? Um, I mean, people were already thinking about moving to copper. Some people already moved to copper with back contact. And so it's just interesting to see this happen. And I'm wondering how people are going to react.
So
Um, mhm.
can you put copper on the same chart?
Let's see if I can find it. I should be able to. Let's see. Metals. Um, well, let's just do this.
Because
I
I'm
know how
just
to get to.
curious if this
Mhm.
fluctuation is wider than just silver. I
All
don't
right.
know.
So for gold, I can show you first. We'll show gold. Gold has fallen off in a similar-ish manner, not as aggressively,
Hmm.
but gold is down from its peak of like 5, and it's down to like 4. So it's down 20%. So there is that. But then let's see. Copper is CUR. No, that's silver, silver, silver. Platinum, copper. Here we go. So copper is up, but I don't think it has had the fall off. Yeah, damn it. So copper is still on its march upward. It's over $6. That's rough. I mean, I'm used to buying it in the fives. And I'm told, before this area is back down in the twos. So copper's still going up. There's been a couple of big fall offs associated with Trump and tariffs and stuff, but it's still marching upward, man. So this is copper. Buy some copper and hold it, or don't. I don't know. Don't listen to me. I'm terrible at investing, but copper's still marching.
Cool. Well, we have a story about battery production, which is marching forward. This is pretty wild, I have to say, John. And is this I'm about to put this on screen, but is
Mhm.
this just US or global?
Just the US.
Okay, so this is Fred, the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, and this is US durable goods battery manufacturing
Mhm.
by what is the measure though? Oh,
I think
2017 equals 100. So it's just a
it's
relative.
just a yeah, it's a relative value. So the way the Fed collects stuff, they just say, they set in 2017, the index set their original number. So all of this is relative to the year 2017.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, is this capacity? Is it revenue? I'm not certain if it's revenue from batteries or just capacity. I have to look and learn about this a little better, exactly what these numbers mean. But relative capacity, maybe? Um, Industrial production and utilization and capacity utilization is how it's defined.
Yeah.
And to learn more about
But
the things I have to learn, but it's
we're going to be
just
talking
batteries are
we're going to be
growing.
talking a lot about batteries here
Yeah.
in the last 15 20 minutes of the show, but I think this graph is indicative of why we're, talking about storage so much, and why I and many others say, you're no longer a solar professional, you're a battery professional that does solar. And woe is you, EPCs and developers who are not into batteries yet. In my opinion, there are
Keep
many out
learning.
there. What percentage? Here's a good question, and
Mm.
maybe the audience could chime in on when we post this. We'll post this on Tuesday, but what percentage of CNI installers are doing battery installation versus not? Do you think it's? I would guess it's 60 to 75%
Doing or not doing?
doing,
Doing.
but there's a
Yeah, I was
sizable
gonna say
chunk
that.
not doing.
I was gonna say 2/3 are doing it in some way. Whether they're developing it
Yeah,
and designing it is different than installing it, but I would guess that a lot of CNI people have touched a battery. Now, I wouldn't call us like active heavy installers. We've installed a couple, but we're still learning how to pitch them and get them out there. But we are trying to get them, and we are trying to build more. So it is something we're trying for, and so we're trying. We want to get into it.
well,
I think
yeah,
it's
you're
important.
you're you're going pretty hard after it because you're developing and you're going to own one of those battery projects.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that one. We're still digging through the agrivoltaic aspect of it. It's a challenge, but
Hmm.
yes, we may own a battery project before soon. It's a goal, big goal.
All right, we got a story from Ed Porter on Blue Sky. Long-awaited LDS results are here. The Minded 2 projects are below. What does Minded 2 mean?
I think that's just the name of the uh, minded to. I think that's just the projects that are being considered within their description. Minded to. It's the British and the way they do stuff, and the way they make words. The reason this is interesting, look at the column to the right.
Yeah,
That's hours.
right.
Look at the most of the stuff in the middle there, Tim. All of those are longer than 8-hour lithium ion batteries.
Yeah.
16 and 18-hour batteries, Tim.
And
That's
these are
borderline.
specific projects?
Yes. The left column is the name of the project.
Yeah. But are these oh, okay, so Scotland and England.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, I've been reading about this just a tiny bit this morning, and people were talking about why this is happening. Scotland has so much wind. They're a different market. They just fundamentally their energy generation curves are different. and this might be what occurs in wind markets. And
Mm,
this just might be how you have to. I mean, maybe long duration starts in the wind markets more so because of the way wind can blow for 3 weeks straight and then not blow for 3 weeks. I don't know, but this is
yeah,
the first time I've seen a bid like this. This
yeah,
is the first time I've seen long duration. I'm
yeah,
told though we should be a little hesitant before latching onto this because it's super early. So all these people, Ed Porter, Tom Haddon, these people are people that know the European and particularly the UK market really well. I follow them on Blue Sky and that. So it's just new. It's come out. It literally hit the press this morning, and we're seeing fresh news for long duration coming
yeah.
from across the pond. And this is cool seeing such 16 and 18-hour, man. Think about that, Tim. If you coupled that with a solar plant and the solar project ran for 6 hours plus an 18-hour battery, and the solar was big enough on the DC side,
Right.
that's 24-hour plant right there. So I'm just really interested in this. And batteries don't have to be charged by solar. We prefer this charged by solar, wind, hydro,
Sure.
but nuclear too, whatever it takes to fill them up, man. But this is long, medium duration. This is, it's just long. It's interesting. It's something that caught my attention.
All right, we're gonna have to be selective. We got a lot of stories here, and do you
We'll
want to
talk
talk
about
about
the CATL.
perovskites?
Well, we should talk about the CATL, the sodium battery.
Okay, let's do
Just bring
that.
that up.
1 gigawatt-hour from 34 modules. CATL claims purpose-built sodium ion BESS can help solve uncertainties facing industry by Andy Colthorpe in Energy Storage News just a few days ago. And yeah, this story, I think this was brought to my attention by the Electric Viking. Do you ever watch that guy on YouTube?
Nope, don't watch anything.
Yeah, check him out. He's an Australian YouTuber. They have an app, John, that you can get on your phone and watch videos. It's really cool. And then you can hit the Gemini button and it gives you a written summary. You can just read about the video. You don't have to watch the video.
I like to
And
read.
yeah,
I like to read.
you're a reader. So now YouTube is helping you.
I know,
But,
I know. I
but
read transcripts.
this is nuts. They have developed a 42-ton solution, 1 gigawatt-hour using 34 connected modules. Each module is like 30 megawatt-hours.
Well, so be careful though. The 42 ton is per module. So it's not it's per subsection for each 30 or each of the modules. So
Yes. Thank you for
so it's
correcting
not
me.
like it's not 1
And
gigawatt hour, yes. But they're huge. They're like 9 megawatt hours and there's another picture of this somewhere and they're the tenor, they're double stacked. They're cool looking.
it's not in this story, the double stack. So
Yeah.
did you get to talk to CATL about this when you were in China?
No, I did not actually talk to CATL at all. But this wasn't even announced. But they were talking about sodium ion there. This was a lot announced at Intersolar in Munich this week.
Okay. So, yeah, this is what we have to emphasize here is this is sodium ion, right? This is the
Yes.
next generation. Right now it's focused on stationary. It'll eventually percolate into electric vehicles.
Yep.
But and we have a sister story about a company called Peak, which has a deal with GM for stationary storage. Peak is an American company, but they're importing sodium modules from China. So China is the big dog in the sodium space. No surprise, really. China's the big dog in battery manufacture, period. But if you want to buy sodium modules, you have to go to China, I think. There's really very few other places to acquire sodium. And Shale Khan covered it on his pod a couple times. He covered sodium. So check out Shale Khan's pod and you can understand that the CapEx is still a little higher, right? The physical footprint is bigger per unit of energy, right? So it's a little less efficient on a space per, on a volume per energy basis. You need a little more space. But the OpEx is better and the
Yep.
operating range is better. And then you were geeking out in the pre-show about the reaction time. Explain that.
Yeah, there's two items. One, I saw a setup of a massive sodium battery, a massive lithium, and then some other type of storage. And they explicitly said that the sodium was being used for the faster reaction time portion, and that lithium ion was the slower technology. And that took me a while, and I still don't understand it fully, but it was just surprising to see lithium ion as the second fastest thing, because lithium ion's fast. And so, as I joked in the show, I said at the beginning of the show, is it that lithium ion is a just hit the I'm already a subscriber? You can lie.
There we go.
Um, and is that makes lithium ion like NASCAR because it's fast, and then sodium is F1 because it's stupid fast. I don't know, but I just know I've seen setups where sodium is specified as the faster product. From the CATL proposal or press release, another thing they put out there, and that's what caught my attention on this press release. They said at a 25-degree life, so a standard average temperature range, plus or minus, 15 degrees. This is a 30,000 cycle battery above 70, 80%. That's a 30-year battery if you're using it once a day,
Right.
full cycle. That's a 30-year battery, Tim. That's where that 30 years, man. That's before, not too long ago, not 5 years ago, Tim. You and I were talking about batteries and saying, yeah, they got a 10-year warranty with 70%. And as we were saying it, we were annoyed because we wanted aligned with solar panels. We want 80% after 30 years because that's 87%. That's where
Yeah.
we're at with solar panels.
Right.
Well, it's coming for batteries, Tim. We're gonna have batteries that are just gonna last forever now. And the game is it's going to be the same thing. So try to figure out how to place yourself mentally, professionally for the fact that these batteries are going to be there forever. They're going to have, last week or a couple weeks ago, we talked about BYD. You just posted it on LinkedIn, everybody. So check out our little talk on LinkedIn about BYD on Tim's page saying 1.4 cents levelized cost of electricity from batteries. It's
Right.
because these batteries are going to last 30 years. You need to build your pads, your equations, your financial model, your sales proposal to these commercial customers and say, hey, we're not selling you, this isn't a battery like for your cell phone. This is a professional grade, grid tied battery that's going to last a generation of human existence. Like, it's a 30-year battery. The game is now professional. It's no longer experimental. And and that's the coolest thing I thought from the sodium announcement was 30 years.
I have the Inside Climate News story, the sister story here. Why General Motors is betting on sodium ion batteries, written by Dan Garino. And Peak Grid Storage is the company. Peak Energy completed a system in Watkins, Colorado in 2025. So Peak is, I think, one of the leaders in sodium here in the US. And in the Shell Khan interview, the CEO said, we're not wedded to sodium. This is just, we think, the best of breed battery technology for the near future. And they will pivot to whatever is most economical LCOE, right? And money talks. So, in 10 years, we'll probably be doing all sodium ion. That seems to be where things are going, but we will see. But it's interesting that GM is now entering the stationary storage business and partnering with Peak, getting into sodium. So for stationary storage, which, space is not as much of a premium in stationary, right? You don't need the energy density that you need in electric vehicles, and that's why you can get away with a 20% delta or whatever it is. And then the other question that's come up that I don't really know the answer to is it cleaner to mine sodium than it is to mine lithium?
I mean,
I
by
don't know.
default, or yes, because it's salt.
It's salt. It's a commodity that we've been mining for much
Ever.
longer. I just don't know as in terms of like the greater environmental impact. So it's a
We'll learn.
question. And but just note that China, again, this story mentions CATL of China. They're just going really hard now after sodium, both, and this specifically says for uh, EVs and stationary storage. So I think it will come in EVs.
This year,
And
they're talking about CATL's putting it in EVs already. It's already, I saw as I was reading about this and other related stories this morning, yesterday, I saw, they're aiming for a gigawatt hour in cars this year,
okay,
just of EVs. So it's coming. It's here. Let's put it that way.
yeah,
All right,
and
can we do one last story? And it's on
sure,
perovskites.
we'll do
Next one on the document.
one last story.
Yes.
It's the
So
last
what?
one on the docket.
It's the last one. It's right here. It's right below you. It's a residential
Okay,
program, residential projects in New Zealand. Apparently, Trina has gotten an official first order for their product. Makes sense that it's in the residential market, high-end residential. There's less pressure
hmm,
from bankers and engineers. Still care about a good quality. It's based on their 900-watt tandem module,
wow,
and they're they're inching along. They're inching along. It's they have a true tandem solar cell um where the perovskite is on the cell, so it's not in the module like some other groups are doing it, not in the glass. So
okay,
there's a split right now. Some groups are doing the perovskites in glass. There's a whole collection of them, and then another group of people are doing them on the cells. But Trina has this module that's 900 watts. That's at like 30% efficiency, and this panel focused on the resi market is on the same platform with that. So it's just cool. And they're 29.2% is the 907-watt module, and so that's a module at 29%, man. So this is just the first,
why no
you know,
photo of the module? I want to see the module.
well, I can probably find it for you if you want, but this is maybe click there. Oh,
Trina
that's
announces new 907-watt power output perovskite silicon tandem module record. I mean, 900-watt module. That is a big number. Apparently, the
and it is
module
within
is 3 meters squared. What's a standard U.S. commercial module in meters squared?
the 3 meters is the
Okay,
utility scale. Yeah, it's the exact same. I'm looking at the 2384 times 1303 millimeters.
but
It's the
so
standard module
how are
size.
they using large format modules in residential? That's kind of
No,
a
no, 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 no. It's not the module for residential. It's the same platform. So Trina has a
what is like a
residential
600
module.
watt module or a 700-watt
It's
module?
it's probably 550 if it's
Okay,
residential.
yeah,
500 to 550 would be a 29%, because they're already at 500 with 23% modules, 24. So maybe it's 600. I doubt it's 700. But that's it. That's the last one I wanted to talk about. It's just cool. It's out there. It's in the world. Somebody's touching a perovskite residential module right now. Somewhere around the world, it's happening, Tim. Somebody's touching it, and they're like,
yeah.
"Oh man, look at this
It's the
awesome module."
two. I guess it's two of the big changes that we're going to be dealing with: perovskite modules and sodium batteries. And sodium, we didn't talk about this, but the other advantage of sodium is it's less fire prone, less
Yes.
thermal runaway issues. So that's a big bonus. It'll be easier for AHJs to accept. There's a lot of stories flying around about AHJs and counties banning, creating moratoria on batteries because they just want more time to digest the safety and hazard issues related. And so this is good, for developers. This is a bonus. If you're a battery developer, think about sodium. Bonus.
A lot of stuff to think about.
All right. Well,
Good
we're
job.
going to be back on July 10th. Have a great 4th of July weekend. And check out all of our content, of course, at cleanpowerhour.com. Tell a friend about the show. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. And how can our listeners find you, John?
Commercialsolarguy.com, LinkedIn. Those are my best places. You could come by one of our projects in Southeast Mass if you wanted to one of these days. Give us a call if you're a tax credit transfer person and you need some tax credits before the end of the year. We have a few projects that we're going to own and we're wanting to sell some tax transfers. But LinkedIn, commercialsolarguy.com. That's the place to find us.
I'm Tim Montague. Let's grow solar and storage. Take care, John.